Nehemiah 9. The walls of Jerusalem were completed. The people returned to the land. The city was once again bustling with life. Yet, Nehemiah 9 has a profound moment of reflection. The work of rebuilding wasn't just about the walls or the gates, it was about the people's hearts, restoring their relationship with God to be renewed. And for that, they remembered. In a long time since Israel had fully understood their history, the covenant with God. So the holy day they gathered together, not just for a feast or celebration, but for a time of deep confession and repentance. Ezra, the scribe, read the book of the law, and the people listened intently, their hearts heavily with weight of the truth. As the word was read, the people's hearts were pierced. They realized that how far they drifted away from God's ways and how much they neglected His commandments. And so they began to confess, first individually, then as a community. They cried out to God for forgiveness, acknowledging their sins and their ancestors' failures. The prayer of confession was long and detailed. The Levites leading the prayer recounted the history of Israel from the moment God created the heavens and the earth, His covenant with Abraham, to the faithfulness through their wander through the desert. They spoke to God had provided, and how He led them, how He had shown mercy at a time and time again. Despite their constant disobedience, as they recounted their history, the people realized something deeply convicting. God had never forsaken them, and they were continually turned away. God had been faithful, but they had been unfaithful. Time and time again, they rejected the ways, worshipped false gods, and ignored His commandments. And yet, God had always been ready to restore them. But people did not remain in their sorrow. They did repentance. And it wasn't at the end, it was in the beginning. In the midst of the confession, they made a covenant. They acknowledged God's faithfulness and returned the pledge of following His ways and their hearts. They made the covenant to obey His commandments. They serve Him alone and to never again to turn away from Him. So in Nehemiah 9, this teaches us the true renewal begins with remembrance. It begins with acknowledging our past mistakes
and recognizing God's faithfulness.
But it doesn't end there. Repentance is followed by commitment. Commitment to walking in God's ways and living out His true in our daily lives. Today, I encourage you to take a moment. Is there something in your life that you need to remember? A time where God was faithful to you even when you weren't faithful or unfaithful? Are there areas where you need to confess, to acknowledge God's mercies, and to commit to walking your ways closely to Him? In Nehemiah 9, be reminded that God's faithfulness never wavers, even when we stumble. Like the Israelites, we too can find renewal and restoration in His presence. Take some time today, reflect on God's goodness, confess where it is needed, and make a covenant to follow Him more closely. Share this message with someone who you may need to invite with encouragement, and they can walk in hope and renewal that comes from remembering God's faithfulness. You have a blessed one day. One day at a time, we'll get through the entire book of the Bible.